Today we're going to continue our color series within Krita, and we're going to go over different ways to put flats down for our illustrations. So I have my zombie line art here, and it's done, and I'm going to go over multiple ways you can just put down the flat color layer. So that's the first thing you want to do when you have something done. You don't want to start shading things until the flat color is there. So first, make sure you have a new layer. Make sure it's underneath your line art. You can group them if you'd like. You don't need to, but just make sure you have a separate layer for your color. I'm actually just name this color for now, if I can spell. All right. So just to make it simple, we're just going to be pretty obvious here and say that you can just use your brush tool of whatever brush tool you'd like and just color on your layer, and you have your flats there, right? Now there is no right or wrong way to do anything. This is a more time-consuming option. However, if you're not in a rush or anything, or it's just kind of more relaxing to do, it's perfectly fine to just manually color everything in, and then we'll just change the hair color and just manually color everything in the lines. And that's totally fine to do. I do that pretty often, usually because it's relaxing and just chill. And I'm not really in a rush to do most things. If you want to do something a little bit quicker, you can use the fill bucket. We're going to go to tool options, and we want to make sure we have this wand tool on. So for referencing, you can reference the current layer. You can reference all layers visible, which would be the option we'd like, or we can reference a specific layer with a color tag. So if you go to your line art and you color tag it with any of these, I'm just going to turn it off for now, but if you had purple, for example, and you had multiple line art layers that were purple, then you could use this tag, and then if you use the fill tool, oops, I'm on the wrong layer, then it would only take the information from that purple layer. So as you can see, I can just eyedrop, and it's taking information from that layer. I'm just going to keep it at all layers because I don't really need to label this. So we're going to leave everything else as it is. We have fill extent, we have the adjustments if you want to grow it or shrink it. Maybe when we go to fill this, it's not filling in some of the smaller areas, but we can grow it to help combat that. Right now, I think the line art for the skin is pretty... Alright, so I have my palette open from the last video where we made this. I'm going to click on the zombie skin color here. I'm going to fill that in. So automatically you can see it goes a little bit outside the lines because I have the grow up to 4 pixels. If I undo that and put that back down to 0, you can see it fills it in near perfectly. And we can also feather it. I'm going to actually do 4 here. What that's going to do, it's going to soften the edge so it's not a harsh edge. You can see it's not, it's a little transparent here. So if I were to take the brush and shrink that down and I were to color here, you can see it's filling it in more. So the feather tool is just going to say any line art that this color is going to be filling around. It's not going to like meet it completely. It's more of a softer edge. I'm going to put that back down to 0, and if I want to shrink the grow, I can do that as well. So maybe you're filling something in, but you don't want it up to the edge of the line art, you can just shrink it down. Put that back up to 0. I'm actually going to put this to 2. So having the grow at 2 pixels, if I go to my line art and I just lower the opacity, we can see this better. We have the green skin, the green zombie skin color. You can see that there's some areas where it doesn't fill in the line art. And I want to make sure that's as filled in as possible. But for the most part, it is filled in. You can see on the edges here, the color is kind of just slightly under that line art. And I like to have that personally, because when I go to blend any colors, so for example, if I were to lock my transparency, I use a darker color, and I go to blend this, it's taking up enough information underneath that line art layer that there's no potential gaps between the line art and the color itself. So there's no like missing pixels or anything like that. So if I were to go back to this state where you can see that the color is not completely filling in the line art underneath, and I were to take my alpha lock off and I were to blend this, turn the line art back on so we can see it. You can see that, oops, it's kind of like a transparent edge to it, which we don't want. So I would have to go back in and fill that in with the color. All right, so I use a different color. So if I go to blend this now, there we go. You can see the edge right here. It's more transparent now. So if I go to color that back in, I have to basically fill that color back in because it was, when I went to blend the colors, if I were to shade this here, there's a gap between the color and the line art, so it's not going to blend very nicely. All right, so fill source is basically your color. So these boxes up here are your foreground and your background color. If you want to use the background color, we can do that, and then her skin's going to turn this bluish white. And then we have the patterns. So if we go to settings, Dockers, and then we go down to patterns, we can actually change which one we want to use. It's going to make this bigger. So if you'd like to use a star texture for whatever reason, we can fill that in and fill up the pattern. It looks kind of weird, so I'm not going to do that. But that's an option you have. Maybe you have a custom pattern, you want to fill an area and it makes life easier for you for whatever reason, absolutely go and do that. Another option for the fill bucket is under the fill extent, so we can fill it in with similar colors to that region, or we can actually use a color as a border or as like a limiter. So if you click on this option here, we can do that. We have the color selected to black, and we have the threshold at 1 and spread at 0 or at 100%. If you go to fill it in, oops, I filled in with the blue, and you can see that everything is turning blue. So we're going to undo that. You can see that my blue color here is actually leaking out. So it's kind of not working well because of that. So we go back to the bucket, the fill bucket. We try to fill it in again with that blue color. Now it works perfectly. So if you have line art layer, or maybe you just have, you're coloring something, let's say it's like maybe an environment and you have like a tree. So let's say you have a rock here, right? You've already sketched it out. You have the line art there. You want to fill this in. First, we have to change the color. I drop it to this border color. So we're going to hit OK. Then we're going to fill it in. Now we don't have to necessarily update that, but you'd want to do that if you have multiple colors going on in your scene, kind of like here, and you just don't want to interfere with anything else you've done. So that can be helpful. Another option we can use is the drag fill mode. So right now we can drag and fill. Let's do the brain. Put that back onto the normal layer. And now we can just click and drag. You can see that's automatically filling in parts of the brain, which is really nice. The only downfall is it's also including the line art layer, so that's a little much. So we're actually going to reduce that grow. There we go. So it looks a little bit better. So now we can click, drag, and fill. Very nice. Now there's some areas that are not quite there, and it looks like the edges are a little jaggedy. It's not very nice. It's not very smooth out. So you may want to play with the settings and see what actually works for you. I mean, you can always just go in and fill it in manually if you'd like, but the point is to kind of speed things up. Yeah, so we'll have to play with the settings just to see how that looks with the border. Actually, no. We would want to use the other option here. There we go. This looks much better. Not perfect, but let's see, raise the threshold. There we go. This looks much cleaner. So by using the drag and fill method, we have a higher threshold, we have the spread at 90, and we're using the option to fill in within a black border. So now we can fill this in without any weird pixelation around the line art. The other option for the drag and fill, it's supposed to be better for line art. At least that's what it says. So it'll only fill regions similar in color to the initial region. So if the initial region already has a black border like this, then anything else I'm going to be filling in will say, okay, then everything else, but then just dragging this photo or this fill bucket tool over is going to fill it in automatically for me. All right, another way to quickly fill in color is the Colorize mask tool. I have plenty, I think I have a couple of standalone videos about this, and there's two ways to go ahead and activate it. The first way is using the tool option here in the toolbar. It's this little brush icon, like a little sun dots around it. The second option is to right click, add, and Colorize mask. There's no right or wrong way to add it, it's just whatever your workflow is. So in order to make any updates to this, however, we would like to activate this tool and then go to our tool options. And here we have a ton of things going on. So the first thing I want to point out, you can go back to your brush tool and use colors this way, or you can use it for the Colorize mask tool. Both options work. I just like to use the brush so I don't go ahead and screw anything up. So what the point of this is to pick your color, make a couple strokes here and there. Don't have to overthink it, just say I want the color here. I want this brain to be pink, right? Just kind of fill that in best I can. We'll do different grains for the hands here. It's a little messy. And we'll just call that a day. And then we would like to have, back to our Colorize mask tool option. We want to have a color here. Doesn't matter what it is, we're just going to pick any color, and we're just going to scribble outside of our line art. So the purple is basically going to be transparent as we marked it off, which means we're just going to look at this and say, with this Colorize mask tool, anything that is within the purple area, so anything outside the black but has a purple line near it, that's going to be transparent. But anything with the other colors that we've chosen within these areas will be whatever color line this is. So green for the skin here and pink for the brain. So making sure we have the Colorize mask tool selected so we can get to our tool options, we want to hit update. I'm going to keep these other settings as they are. However, if you would like to modify them, maybe you have more gaps in your work. Like if I wanted this to be either not cover everything with green, I want to reduce that, I can reduce the gap close, or I can increase it to kind of get more area. All right, so the update is done. If we take edit create keystrokes and uncheck that, we can see what our work looks like thus far. We can see what areas may need some tweaking, what settings may need to be updated, and the nice thing is, look how nice and crisp this looks. Beautiful, like there's no fuzzy edges and there's no weird feathering going on. Everything is like perfectly filled in. Some areas didn't get filled in because I didn't extend the green strokes to that, the ears, and I didn't modify any of these either, so that's okay. So I'm going to turn these keystrokes back on. Now if we don't want to see the output after we've tested it, we want to go back and modify our strokes. We can uncheck show output there like I just did, and go ahead and modify some things. So I'm actually going to, let's see, leave the cleanup at 70% because that's always worked really well for me. But we're going to increase the gap close, and we're going to hit update again. All right, so now that's done, you can actually see what it's done here. Go back to the brush. It looks like it's pushed that green now over some of the line work areas, which is actually not bad. It's not perfect. Like you can see, it covered the liner over here, but it didn't quite make it to other areas. So if we go back to our Colorize mask tool and then edit, or turn off the edit keystrokes. I'm sorry. Turn that on, but show output, and uncheck that. You can see that there's a little bit of a dark area, which is the mask. And masking is basically telling whatever it is you're doing, what area gets affected and what area doesn't. So you can see the more black areas, the darker gray in this case, have more color reach than the like the more white areas, which the purple is kind of blocking. It's like saying don't go to this area. So if we reduce this, we update, you can see some more things have changed now that it's updated. And turn off the edit keystrokes. Actually, we want that on, sorry. Alright, so we can see that more things have changed by having a lower gap close hint. So we have a harsher edge here and all areas. But for the brain, it's actually filled in more empty areas as well. Not so much for this one, but this one that filled in this area. So it may work in this case to fill in areas I wanted it to. This one, it filled in the whole head as green. This one, I went over some of the line work a little bit better. So modifying these settings can help change your output. So I'm actually gonna put that back at 30, just because that's usually what I stick with. So let's say we have made these changes, we like them, we're happy with them, but we can't actually like shade or anything with this. It's still stuck in the Colorize mask tool setting. If you right click on the layer it made, go to convert to paint layer. So now it's just a standard layer. You can go and do whatever you'd want with it. You can go in and fill in some more color if you'd like. You can use the fill bucket on it again and change that. You can do whatever. So another option we have for the color or layer or selection masks. I went over this in the illustration video a while ago, but we're gonna go over it again. So we're gonna select everything. So with the selection tool, I wanna make sure that we're only selecting the actual inside of the shapes, not the outside. So because you can see these dotted lines moving here on the edge, you wanna invert that. So now I have selected all of the illustrations. I'm gonna go to color, I'm gonna right click, I'm going to add, and I'm gonna add a local selection. So here we can see that there's this pinkish orange color, and then we have our actual drawings. If I turn this on and I go to my color layer and I start coloring, it is only going to affect what's within those selection masks. So if you have a lot of work and you don't want to sit there and play with the Colorize mask tool, you just want to go in and start laying down color without having to worry about cleaning up the outside of your illustration or line work, this is a really good option. So for this one, I actually need to modify that because this would be a blank space for me. So to make this transparent here in the middle of the box, we're going to have our selection tool on. I'm going to go to a solid black here, and we can just fill that in. So now when we go to color, because this is technically a brain inspired border, I can go and color this in and have it be pink. And now I don't have to worry about the inside of the box having any of that bleed in. Which it looks really good. So I can do the same over here, just paint the brains pink. And whatever else I want to do. If we want to get more detailed, go back to our line art. I'm gonna hide the color, make a new color layer. Back to my selection wand. I'm going to select all the eyeballs. And what I want to do for my wand, I want to continuously add. So we're gonna use this option here, the two boxes which are kind of merged together. And I'm just gonna keep adding everything. This isn't gonna be perfect by any means. Ideally, I want to add or use this selection curve here, so I can just click and drag and include everything. If I add anything I don't want to, I can go back to the subtract option here, which is available for all selection tools, and just remove it. I think that's fine for now. We get the point. I'm gonna add that, go to our new paint layer, add local selection, go back to our line art layer. We're gonna select, let's see, do we want to select the skin? We'll do the brains. I think that would be an easier one. Just gonna do a rough selection, and then we can modify it with our, is this the Bezier curve? No, freehand. I'm just gonna kind of sloppily add this so we're not here forever. All right, so I went ahead and selected the brains. I didn't make it like super perfect because we're just doing this for the tutorial. If you want to add more than one selection mask to that color layer, we can do that. So we have that set up. We're gonna go to our color layer. Now, if it's selecting the eyes still, you wanna turn off that selection mask with this little dot here. And we're gonna right click on that, hit add, and add a second local selection. So now we just have the brains. So we can go back to our brush tool, use the pink. Whoops. Not what I wanted. Go back to the actual color layer, go to the pink for the brain, turn on the eye color. We can just scribble in the eyes. And now we have one color layer but we have multiple parts separated out when we want to do our color work. This makes it nice if you want to add some shading. You can do that without interfering with anything else for that color. If you want to turn it off, you can just click on the little round dot here in the layers panel, and you can move it around if you'd like, and treat it like a normal color paint layer. Another tool that we have for our selection tools is the magnetic. So what this is going to do is automatically detect your line work. So we're going to actually do it here for the brain so I can show you. I'm just roughly dragging my pen around this shape. As you can see, it's not perfect, but I'm just not even making this a perfect stroke here. But the tool is automatically detecting that line art. Go back to tool options and I can hit complete, or you can hit the enter key. And now I have a selection. And I can just go back to my brush tool, oops, and fill that in. And that took very little effort. And we have plenty of settings here to play with. We have the grow, the feathering, which we looked at before, and we have some other things to help fine-tune the magnetic approach, which is the filter radius, threshold, search radius, anchor gap, good stuff like that. We go to deselect, go to the next brain. If we do a search radius and increase that, it's going to, you can see my mouse is a little farther. It will detect that a little bit better. I'm gonna undo that, deselect. I need to actually increase that even more. I don't want any anchor gaps, so I'm gonna leave that there, and I'll leave the filter radius the same. Oops. So again, I'm just dragging a little bit more quickly. And you can see how nicely that is filling in. All right, and the last tool, which I save for last because it's not quite my favorite, but it is a nice feature, which is the enclose and fill. So if we have this brain here, we want to fill it with this pink color. I actually put the threshold down to 1. If I just click and drag, it'll fill those areas in, which is very nice, but it's not perfect. You can see it's bleeding out a little bit. So we want to actually increase the threshold just a smidge to help. So just click and drag and it'll fill it in. Now next we have the enclose and fill. So over here you can see we have similar options to our fill bucket. We can use the square, the circle, we can freehand it. We can use a Bezier curve, we can freehand it, use a brush, all sorts of things. Ooh, look at that. That was really nice. Let me just do that again. Oh, never mind. I think I just looked out there. Okay, so with the brush tool, whatever you're gonna brush over, whatever's in this green area, we'll get that nice color. And voila, it's done. That is actually a lot easier than I remember it being. So we do the green skin here. Let's see how that looks in a more detailed object. Not so great. Okay, so after a little bit of working, I put the threshold back down at 1, and I just made my brush huge. I'll show you that. There we go. So now we filled it in. It's not great with a lot of color work. It's not quite detecting the actual face here, but it worked when I did this. The one downfall is I may not want the hair included in all that. So it's going to take a little bit of tweaking here. So we have the threshold or the spread, so if you want it to not affect the area as much, we can reduce that. And we have some target regions as well. So let's say we have a specific color we want to paint over. So we can go ahead and use the pink. We want to make it like a different pink. We're going to reduce the brush size. So we can see here, now it's affecting just the pink. So if I color over here, it's not filling it in at all. It's only affecting that color that I want to replace, which is pretty nice. And it's gonna be the same for the other tools. Let me actually erase this so we can see. Let's go back to our little lasso here. We're gonna put our target region back to all. And we're gonna put this back to that brain pink. We're gonna just fill that in. There we go. So now we have our brain with the freehand tool. We have the Bezier curve, so that's basically just clicking and dragging, and we're gonna make some curves and make a shape. Kind of similar to the freehand tool, but might be a little easier if you have a mouse. You don't have a tablet or anything like that. So you can use the Bezier curve to make your selection and fill it in that way. I would make a bigger curve than you need, so it actually detects the lines. A good way to use the Bezier curve tool or tool option for this, and using target region, specific color or transparency. Specific color or transparency. And hit invert. I go ahead and make the Bezier curve here. It's going to fill that in a little bit better. So you have options here to use the enclose and fill. It doesn't have to be like a lot of work. We can use the other shapes too. Pretty simple. Nothing crazy. Alright, so I think that's it for this video. Hopefully it's not too long once I'm done editing. If you want to have a little bit of a peek into next week, we're going to work on shading and adjusting our flats that we just put down. You can lock the transparency, which I did mention earlier, so you can actually start shading your colors. Make sure I'm on the right brush tool. Make sure I have the color changed. And you can actually start playing with some blending brushes and add some shading to this. So that was actually going to be your homework, is to get some flats down for some work you drew. If you're struggling to find something or draw something, let me know in my Discord server, which link is in the description below. And I can probably draw something real quick for you guys to kind of practice with. Otherwise, your homework's just going to be get some line work, fill it in with one of the tool options I shared today, and get some flat colors down and start putting a little bit of shading in there to make it a little bit more finished, so that next week we can go ahead and make adjustments as needed, and I'll show you the color tools for that. Alright, so that's it for today's video. If you have any questions or comments, as always, leave them down below. I'll do my best to answer them to the best of my ability. If you haven't already, make sure to like the video and subscribe so you don't miss out on the next video in the color series. I think we have 2 more videos after this. And as I mentioned before, make sure to join my Discord below so you can get some real-time feedback or help with Krita if you need it, or just want a chill art server to hang out in. Thank you guys for watching, and I will see you next week.